Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my channel. So today I'm filming a soft glam tutorial. It's a very beginner's tutorial. I'm going to be going into like what a transition shade means, where to find your crease, all of that. I know on YouTube, like if you're following a lot of tutorials, and I know I've done this in the past, is like you'll hear a lot of people saying like, just add this into your transition. This is going to be your transition shade. But what the hell is a transition shade? Like what? And what does it mean? Where to place it? What brush to use? So I'm going to go into depth in this tutorial on how to create a beginner's eye look but using this palette. So yeah, I think this palette is really amazing. It has a ton of neutrals. If you don't have this palette, go and grab a neutral palette. This is what it looks like. And go ahead and grab a palette similar to this and pick up at least two shimmery shades that are similar to these two, because these are the two that I work on today. Let's get started on this beginner's eye look. I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is prime the lids, and I'm going to use the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. I'm just going to use my fingers to prime the lids. You want to put the primer all over the lid, all the way to your brow. I'm going to put a little bit underneath my eye as well, because I like to put eyeshadow underneath there too. So the purpose in using a primer is it's going to make your eyeshadows just pop more. It's going to increase the colors in it. It's also going to make it last longer. This one in particular has lasted me like overnight. Like one time I forgot to take off my makeup and the next day I woke up and my eyeshadow was perfect. So this one is not playing around, I'm telling you. So always prime your lids. If you don't have a primer like this, and go ahead and use concealer. That works just as well. Okay, so now that I've primed and set the lids, I'm ready to start with my transition shade. So the palette I will be using today is a Soft Glam palette, and if you guys don't know what a transition shade is, it's what's gonna basically make all of the eyeshadows come together. It's gonna create a gradient from dark, medium to light, where transition is your middleman. That's the one that's gonna make all the shadows come together. I'm sure you guys have, if you watch a ton of YouTube videos like me, you've probably heard this term a bunch of times, but you're not really sure what it is, and you're not really sure where to place it. So your transition shade is the area right in between your socket and your brow bone, right here. Try to find the area in your eye that kind of sinks in a bit. So this is your crease, and this is where we're going to apply the transition shade, and we're going to go in windshield motions very lightly with the hand like this. So your transition shade should be a shade lighter than the color you're going to use on your outer V, which is here, and that's what's going to kind of create the gradient and make all the colors look good and very blended. If you don't have this palette but you want to follow along, just use a bronzer. That works really well too. The best transition shades is either a taupe or a medium brown or a light orange shade, so I'm going to use this one, Orange Soda, today. And I'm going to go in with the Sigma Tapered blending brush in E40. So what you want to do is make sure you hold your brush this way. You want to hold it very lightly so that you avoid making any mistakes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into that Orange Soda shade. And I always tap off my brush a bit just to get rid of excess. So let's start in the crease area. I also want to talk about the importance in the brush you use as your transition shade. I recommend using a tapered brush. You want to have something that has kind of like a tapered end, and that way you can kind of stick this into your eye socket and blend in. And a fluffy one works best because that will help blend it out. If you use a very stiff brush for your crease, it's going to be very harsh, while this will blend it out because of its fluffiness. If you put on too much of your transition color, just go and take a clean brush and just brush it on top like this, lightly, to kind of just blend it all out. Let's get on to our outer V area. So that's going to be the outside of your area right here. And then in this area, we can go a little bit darker. And you want to make sure you guys use a matte color, because this is going to help deepen the effect. If you use a shimmer, it's going to reflect light, and that's going to take away from the fact that you're trying to deepen the ends of your eyes, that you're trying to deepen the shadow and go for that gradual effect. So I'm going to go with this dark brown called Cyprus Umber. And this color, I believe, was actually in the Modern Renaissance palette as well. So I'm going to go in with this blending brush. It's an E25 by Sigma. If you don't have this, I think E.L.F has a really good one too. This was $3 from E.L.F. if you guys don't have this one. If you notice, it's a little bit different from your tapered blending brush. It's a lot more dense. and this is more fluffy. This is gonna help pack the color on. So let's go in with Cyprus Umber. If you guys want, like, to avoid any fallout, you can get your Booty blender and make sure it's a little bit damp and get a little bit of the setting powder. And you're gonna wanna put a pretty good amount underneath your eyes. So let's go in with Cyprus Umber into the outer V area. So you wanna make sure you place it right here in the outer V. Remember to have a light hand with this. What you're gonna notice is I kind of bring it down into the outer end of my eye. And we're just working on the outer V here. So now that our outer V is ready, we have our lid area, and you can go ahead and use a shimmer there. So I think I'm gonna use this sultry color. It's kind of like a dark pink. I'm gonna get a flat shader brush like this. And this is the eye shading brush. It's the E55 by Sigma. Any flat shader brush like this is gonna work really well. So once again, this is really dense and this is gonna really pack it on. If you guys want to, sometimes I use my finger, especially when working with shimmery shades. So go in with that sultry color. So I'm gonna go into the area right here towards the middle. So just pat down and blend it onto the Cyprus Umber shade. So for me, I can tell right where my crease stops, which is right here. And that's where you want to apply color to the lid. You don't want to go above, and just leave a little space extra, and that's where we're going to apply the rose pink. Okay, so for my inner corner of my lid, I'm going to go in with this flat shader brush. So it's very similar to this eye shader brush, except it's mini. And it's called the short shader brush. So it's kind of like half of this. Like if you were to cut off this is what you would get. It's like the little brother of this one. And it's very dense. It's gonna help pack on that pigment. Like I said, you guys can go ahead and use your finger. Alright, so this is the shade that I just used in the middle end, and it's called Sultry, and this is the shade I'm gonna use in the inner corner. It's called Rose Pink. So I'm gonna go in with that Rose Pink, and that's a shimmer shade as well. So go ahead and dip the Sigma short shader brush, it's a E20. And just tap it into your inner corner right here very lightly. Always go lightly in the beginning, remember you can always build it up after. And go right underneath your eye right here where the lid begins. And go very lightly. And I'm basically going to copy the same colors that I used on my upper lid onto my lower lid. So I'm going to go in with that Sultry again. For the outer end of my lower lash line, I'm going to go in with that Cyprus Umber again with the same brush. And just go underneath very lightly. Always tap before you dip into your eyes. Okay, so what we're going to do now is tight line. And I'm going to use a nude pencil. This one's from Sephora, and I'm just going to outline my waterline. Using nude white is going to make your eyes look more open and more awake. What I'm going to do is go in with a black liner, and this is from Pat McGrath. Alright, so off camera I just went ahead and put on some blush and some highlighter, and yeah, so that's what I did off camera, and then I also put on my fake lashes. Alright you guys, so the one last thing I'm going to do, which I totally forgot to do for my eyes before I put on my fake lashes. So I forgot to highlight my brow bone, so I'm just going to go in with this angled brush. It's the medium angled shading brush in E70 by Sigma. And I'm just going to dip into Tempera right here, this light color. So you always want to use a light color for your brow bone. You can either use a shimmer or a matte color. So I'm just going to go into my brow bone right here. And what this is going to do is just help highlight your brow bone so it looks more prominent. And it's just going to make it look really nice. And using a light color on your brow bone is kind of going to do that thing where I was talking about the gradient. So like I said, your transition shade should be like a medium color, while your outer V should be a darker color, and then your brow bone should be a light color. So it goes from light, medium to dark, which produces that gradient and makes your eyeshadow look very blended and nice. So when I go into my brow bone, I only go into the outer brow bone right here. You don't really want to bring it in because we just want to highlight this area right here. So if you look at the difference between the two, you can see that this eyebrow looks more arched. I'm just going to do the same thing for my left eye. Alright, so once you do that, you're completely done with your eyeshadow. I hope that was really easy for you guys to follow. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this beginner's tutorial on how I use the Soft Glam palette. I really like this palette. I think it has a lot of transition shades for you to work with. It has a really nice brow bone highlight. It has a lot of pretty shimmers, which work really great for the lid. So this is a really good beginner's palette. So I hope everyone has a really good weekend, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.